Hello there, and welcome to episode 26 of the Holocron Chronicles. My name is Mark, aka the Canardian, and I'm joined, as always, for a year now by my amazing co-host, Charlie Carden. Charlie, how you doing tonight?
It's in the hole! I'm very excited. I cannot believe that we've been knocking this stuff out for over a year. This was the show that took our secret friends' little conglomeration to a network of 4 shows. Just Mark and I talking about loving Star Wars. We kicked off by talking about The Mandalorian, which we hope to do again someday when that show comes back. But we are excited to finally get some new content again here in the next month with the book of Boba Fett. But in the meantime, we've been talking about the films, and so it's totally awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I've been loving this recap, and for today's episode of Attack of the Clones, we have a returning guest, a very special guest, Abbi, aka Kid Sidious. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Super excited.
Surviving the crud, as Abbi and I were talking in the pre-roll, that we're like, bleh. I mean, it's just
crud buddies.
It's crud season, no matter where you are, whether you live in Atlantis like Mark does, or I'm here in Mitten in Michigan, and Abby's even out there in Arizona, where I thought the magical weather was supposed to be the rivers of milk and honey, and nobody ever got sick, but since that's not real. We're all sick in one way or the other.
Yeah.
You said that as I literally muted my mic so I could cough.
Oh,
so, we're gonna get through this, but there may be a couple of stutters along the way. But like I said, this is our year anniversary episode. So we launched the show on December 2nd, but we do bi-weekly, so we won't be doing an episode for that week. So really, this is dropping on November 24th. That means we're a week away basically from the actual anniversary, but 26 episodes. That's pretty great. And we've had some amazing guests, a whole lot of fun Star Wars discussions, and the show's taken some twists and turns and changes along the way, but I'm really happy with where we've landed. Charlie,
before
we get into the show, how are you feeling?
I was going to say, I teed the show off with I was kind of bootlegging a concept from another content creator who had a canon update. It's like, well, this is all the stories that happened in the last month, and Mark and I started like, let's do this once a month, and we'll do the same thing. Well, we quickly figured out that we didn't really care about all of the content that came out. It was not. We weren't.
It's so hard to keep up with.
We weren't going to read 5 comic books and 2 novels and blah blah. We were just like, dude, let's be original. Let's have a topic. And Mark, far beyond my skills and certainly beyond anything I think I'd ever be able to accomplish, is the master of Twitter. I suck at Twitter. Mark is like, I'm the Twitter guy. I know people in every corner of the world, plus the 17 galaxies. I will find us guests, and he always comes back with something amazing. And Abbi, I think you might be one of our first repeating guests, which is awesome.
Cool.
But
I'm honored.
Mark is firing out there, finding people here and there and everywhere, and he's driving the bus. I am much like with over on Secret Friends. I am just the clown. I let Oxford do his thing, and I'm like dee dee dee. Where over on my show on the Star Trek show Code 47, I have to sort of be in charge, I guess. But I'm happy to be kind of the side man to such a talented guy. Mark is the dude. He makes this happen.
So you say that like I know people on Twitter, like I actually know people, but literally how the show happens for anyone listening that wants to be part of this show, Abby's a testament to this right now, because it was literally an offhanded comment on Twitter of like, hey, if you want someone to talk about clones, like hit me up. And I was like, DMs, let's go. And
done.
Literally set up like 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
And that's like how this show operates. Is I see someone on like Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or something that's spinning a lightsaber around, and I'm just like, hey, you want to talk Star Wars for an hour? Like,
I mean, I would stand up and show you my ass, but it's by the seat of your pants. But you don't need to see that.
That's it. That is exactly how this show works. And like, for every 5 people I reach out to, maybe one is like, okay, cool, and we get great guests. Like, but like,
that's true.
That's basically how this works.
Mark works in marketing. I'm a sales guy. This is a hybrid of the two. It's just all attrition. It's like if I ask 10 people, half a person might be interested. So you just keep asking. You just keep asking.
That's it. That's it. But then, hopefully we have guests that want to return, like Abbi.
Right.
So Abbi, you were on is it episode 21? So that was only a few weeks ago. But how's things been since then?
Not much has changed. I still work 9 to 5 in tech support and want to cry a lot about it, and that's about it.
My wife works in software QA and had a shitty day, so it's like I totally feel you. She comes out, she's like, "Hey, my job some days because so and so did this thing and that thing, and then their team wasn't ready for this and that." And I'm like,
yeah.
And she's upstairs 3 nights a week. She is taking a 3-hour class 3 nights a week to become a software developer. So
I'm about to like start doing that as well, and I'm just like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare because I'm going to be trying to tell boomers over the phone how to open a new tab on the computer. Then I'm going to come home and just like smash my face into the keyboard learning how to code. So it's going to be a great time.
And it has been interesting, but she's a fucking champ. She's killing
That's
it.
awesome.
So I'm very proud. I'm very, very proud.
That is great. On the content side, he's keeping up with. I know you knock stuff out on TikTok so quickly and so much that it's hard to keep up. Every time I go on, you're like the top of the For You page of like, hey, this she's added something new, so watch this, and then I scroll down too, and it's like another new video. So like, how are you finding keeping up with all that stuff? Yeah,
I see my kind of. I don't really have any rhyme or reason for the videos I make. I just hear a sound and I'm like, you know what that sounds like to me? Something completely unrelated, but I'm going to make it Star Wars. So I try and keep up with like the content and stuff, but it's very off the cuff most of the time.
Everything can be Star Wars if you try hard.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, if anyone's not following you, you're Kidsidious _ I think everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everywhere, all platforms.
We'll share that again, and it'll be in the show notes. But if anyone's not following, make sure you do, because you're incredibly active. It's amazing. Like I'm trying like a daily appreciation post, and I haven't done today's yet, and I've got like 2 hours left of the day and Atlantic time, and I'm like, I gotta get this done, and you're like sitting here knocking out 6 friggin' TikToks and like twittering up a storm, and it's amazing.
I see Twitter is different because I just go there. It's very much like a diary of ADHD of like, what is the thought this moment? And then 30 seconds later, it's like, on a completely unrelated note, here's this. So.
Yep. I get that, but I appreciate it. It definitely keeps me occupied. Yeah, for sure. So let's jump right in. We've got a ton of news today, which is weird because it's been kind of slow. And that's, we've been doing this rewatch project, and that's been great because it's given us something to talk about when there's been a slow news week or couple of weeks or month or 2 or whatever. Like,
yeah, right.
Holy crap, there's a lot of stuff now.
Star Wars is not, like any other kind of geek media. And I know I drill down the Star Trek stuff, and it's not like there's always news there, but there's always, if it's Marvel, there's always something, or there it is. But yeah, with Star Wars, with how spread out the productions are, and again, we're looking at no movies now, which I'm super not happy about. But yeah, we at least got some great news here, because this is some news about the Ahsoka show, which again, I think this article will expound. I don't know if we expect to see this in 2022, but we have an actress that I'm completely unfamiliar with, Natasha Lou Bordizzo. That's a hell of a name. Was cast to play Sabine Wren in Disney Plus's Ahsoka. She was in other productions of The Society, Most Dangerous Game, and Guns Akimbo. Haven't seen any of them. You guys?
No.
Anything? Okay.
No.
So to me, that means she's a complete unknown. Yeah, cast to star opposite Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano in the Mandalorian spinoff series. That's great. All we have to go on right now is that we see a picture of her face, and bingo.
I've seen a lot of fan art.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of like taking her face and adding the Sabine kind of like crazy hairstyles, or like putting her in Sabine's armor. So like she looks good as in fan art kind of thing, but I can't wait to see some actual production stuff. There is a bit at the bottom of the article that I shared here.
Yeah.
That production is tentatively expected to start in March 2022. I'm guessing we won't see this until probably the same time a year past that.
Yeah.
That's been my experience, because again, we saw the end of Mandalorian, I think prior to the holidays last year, and it said at the time Book of Boba Fett December 2021, which is where we are where we are right now. So I think it's a foregone conclusion that production window on any of these things is basically 12 months.
Yeah.
So and it's okay, because we'll all still be here. It'll be fine.
It'll be great. Abby, how do you feel about that kind of rollout? Do you want to see this sooner? Or are you excited for Book of Boba Fett? What are you feeling?
I'm really excited for Book of Boba Fett. Obviously, extremely excited for Kenobi, even though we don't really have any idea when that's coming out. But I was never previously like a huge like Boba Fett fan. I didn't dislike the character. It just wasn't like kind of at the forefront of things that I was like, oh, I really love this. But the more I've kind of learned about just like Mandalorians in general and loving the Mandalorian so much, I am now really, really excited. And I love Tim Morrison. I'm so glad he's back. So I'm just like, I'm geeking out about it a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm really excited for Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, and then to get back to the Mandalorian, like the proper. I'm guessing. I'm really hoping that they start to do a 2-show per year, like these live action shows. So if we do Book of Boba Fett December, this fall, whatever, I'm hoping that Obi-Wan drops spring, summer.
That's what I'm really, really hoping.
It would be great, but again, you're transitioning Star Wars from. It's funny because they're transitioning from a movie format, of which currently there is nothing. Which again, Mark, you and I are still feeling the loss of the fact that Rogue Squadron, the film, is currently not happening. But again, harkening it back to Star Trek, that's been back around again for almost 5 years, since 2017, after having been dormant for almost a decade. And it's taken it this long to get to the point where there are other shows happening besides Star Trek Discovery, which was the thing that brought it back. And, Star Trek Discovery just started up again, but just prior to that, there was a kind of a young adult themed program called Prodigy, which is taking a break to give Discovery some breathing room, and then it'll come back again. But again, it took almost 5 years for it to ramp up. So you got to think about The Mandalorian's been around since 2019. So at that same pace, they may have 2 or 3 years before you can have 2 shows going concurrently in a year, because the production time frame of each one of these programs, post-production and design and all this different stuff, is so long that there's definitely going to be a catch-up period. So I mean, but as we all know, it will be worth it, because the television content that we've seen from Star Wars, certainly in live action, though I was not crazy about Star Wars Visions, so a lot of people were, but I'm gonzo about the Mandalorian. I probably watched the series through maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 times because I love it so much. It has been absolutely phenomenal, and I feel like the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka will kind of deliver the same stuff.
And we've got Andor thrown in there as well. And at some point, they're going to start producing and developing and hopefully announcing a little bit more of the Acolyte. So, I mean, there are some things in development that we could start to see over the next 2 or 3 years, and hopefully have a quicker rollout than like once a year. In the case of Mandalorian, like a whole potentially year break in between, or like, a 2-year gap because of the Book of Boba Fett's timing. I hope we kind of start to see a faster rollout, but I'm very excited that we see Sabine Wren live action. I'm hoping that means Ezra live action coming soon.
So.
The rumors were Mena Massoud, Aladdin.
I don't know his name. I think that sounds right. I feel really bad, but I know his face.
Yes.
I think he would be a great Ezra.
fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, and right on par with the character. So you know what? I didn't really review much of this next story, but it sounds like you didn't have a lot of jam about it. Mark, what do you think?
So D23 happened. They didn't do a lot of Star Wars stuff, but they did show off a little bit from the Galactic Cruiser at Disney World, and they showed off in particular a little bit of the ship that you're going to go on, and talked about some of the things that you're going to be able to buy, replica clothing and that kind of stuff. But the thing that interested me the most is the real lightsaber. That's the extending lightsaber that we saw a few months ago, that you press the button and it comes out like a real, quote unquote, real lightsaber. They also showed off a little bit of the lightsaber training, which is kind of cool, I guess. In theory, you know, it's kind of like the lightsaber training with a little floating orb that, you know, you block the lasers or whatever, like Luke does in A New Hope. Except in this, you're not blindfolded, and it's not a drone shooting lasers at you. It's something in the wall. And basically how it works, it's I don't really know what I expected, but like, you see a laser shoot and then you move the lightsaber into that laser field, and it looks like it kind of gets a little more intense. So it started off and I was just like, really, this is it? Like, the guy's just kind of like slowly kind of like moving the lightsaber left and right and interacting with these like beams of light that are coming out of the wall. And it's like, all right, cool. But it does look like it gets a little faster. So like, I'm hoping for some like Beat Saber kind of level of like just waving this thing around. And I'm hoping it's a little bit more badass. Did you guys get to see have you guys seen any of this, or like have any expectations for the Galactic Cruiser?
I did get to see some of it. I watched some of the videos and I read some articles and stuff. And I have to say, I appreciate the Beat Saber reference, because immediately when I saw it, I was like, I want to be like getting a workout in and like sweating, you know?
That's it. Who doesn't enjoy that? You know, you feel like you're accomplishing something.
Yeah, seriously. Burning some calories there. But I don't know. I don't have any set expectations for the Star Cruiser. I think once people get to start experiencing it outside of the lens of like, we're Disney and we're giving it to you, we'll have a better idea of how it goes. Also, that the extending lightsaber, this was a grown man holding it, and it, with all the technology to make it extend, it was like it was huge.
Right. Yeah.
It was girthy, may I say.
I'm not fucking touching that. You go right ahead.
It does, and that's why I said, like, in the show notes, I have it looks flimsy as hell. It's awkward. Like, the handle, the grip is like awkwardly big, but also, like, if you notice in the video, he's kind of holding it very straight, and he's very rigid when he's holding it, because the patent that describes like how this works basically has it like it extends like a measuring tape. If you've ever held a measuring tape, you can hold it up and it kind of stays up. But the second you move it a little bit too far, like, that thing's going to just collapse on itself.
It's floppity. Yeah, it's floppity.
Go try that with a measuring tape if you don't know what I'm talking about, and then come back and keep listening. But like, it just
spots right here.
Yeah. What is it, real science experiments?
Exactly. The interactive portion of the show. So it seems, and they've announced that they will not be selling this to fans. This is kind of like a prop thing, just for it seems like this is going to be like a cool thing for a show. Like, Rey's going to come out, she's going to ignite her lightsaber, you know,
she's going to hold it upright and not do anything. Hold it
upright awkwardly and stiff. Chewie's going to be like, wah, and then they're going to walk off stage, and you know, the fireworks are going to go off. Like, it seems like this is something that Disney Imagineers have created for a show, for a spectacle. If you want the replica lightsabers or build your own lightsabers, you can still do that. But this seems to be something that is like the magic of watching a lightsaber extend and being like, oh, whoa, they are real. You know, like, so I don't know if I'm disappointed by that or whatever. Realistically, the Galactic Star Cruiser is so crazily expensive that I will likely never step foot on there anyway.
True.
Let alone want to be able to buy a working replica lightsaber. But it's fun to look at this stuff anyway.
I hear you. I have a quick bite, and
sure.
This is me jumping in. I'm a figure collector. I enjoyed Star Wars: The Black Series, and Hasbro, who has produced Star Wars figures for many years, has in the last few years produced quote unquote their dream projects or their crowdfunded bits. They had their first failure, non-Star Wars, a couple of years ago when they tried to produce Sesame Street's Cookie Monster.
I remember that.
Did not meet the crowdfunding expectations and just kind of died away. Well, for the first time, and this is a dramatic reversal, they're looking to fail quite epically with Star Wars. When we had basically Hasbro will produce these Fan First Fridays where, ooh, look at our big reveals, and they had their Hasbro PulseCon 3 or 4 weeks ago. And they announced a couple different things. They're like, we have 3 crowdfunding projects at once. We have the G.I. Joe Sky Striker, which if you enjoyed G.I. Joe as a kid, as I did, you would love. And my wife was actually the one who wanted to fund it. So we did. We put in for it, although it's still not hit its goal. And if it doesn't hit its goal, it doesn't get produced. Okay. The second one was a full-size replica of the Proton Pack from Ghostbusters. Boom, immediately funded, all set.
Oh, I'm sure.
All set. The third one
I just watched that first, like the 1984. I watched that over the weekend.
We did too, and we watched Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I have to go see that.
Which we'll be talking about on Secret Friends Unite with a very special guest in our next episode that we're taking a bye week because of the holidays. That'll be a fun episode, I promise. But at any rate, the third project was Star Wars related, and it was the first one for Star Wars: The Black Series, which is these 6-inch scale figures that I have a pretty extensive collection of. Mark, you've seen my collection and pictures of it anyway. I really cherish it, but it's of the Rancor, 24 inches tall with a wingspan of the arms of about 45 to 47 inches, which is massive. However, when they dropped it on this PulseCon day, they presented an unpainted prototype. They did not have anything finished. They did not reveal any of the unlocked tiers. And an unlocked tier with a project like this is when the number of commitments reach a certain level, a new offering is added at no additional expense. Okay. So they didn't have that at the time. They finally rolled those out pretty weekly. The first one was, I'm pretty sure, a repackaged figure. Okay, which nobody cares about. The second one was I shit you not, a cardboard backdrop to go behind it. Nobody cared. The third one was, and I could be mixing up the tiers, the third one was a collection of small bones that would adorn the floor of where your Rancor would stand, one of which was a Tauntaun skull, which makes absolutely no sense to anyone who ever has watched Return of the Jedi. They did a fan first event where the marketing, I hate to say shills because that's not fair. People who are in marketing, like Mark, do their job and they have to very enthusiastically promote the thing that they're doing. I believe they finally had a painted prototype. They revealed that the other unlocks would be previously issued figures, including Salacious Crumb, which was totally illogical because he was not part of the scene that the Rancor was in, and a repackaged Jedi Luke, which I already have one. This project which was at about 5,100 backers of the 9,000 required, has now fallen to under 4,700 backers. People have been backing out. Wow. Which is, it's shocking to me. It's the first time that has ever happened. So I've been having a very hearty discussion with 2 figure collecting buddies of mine, John Sear, who is the other original Secret Friend, and my friend Derek, who's local here to Grand Rapids. And what an absolute travesty this is, and kind of how all consumerism people speak with their wallets. And if you try to say, and plus the project itself, $350, which is absurd. I would consider paying $200 for this with the unlocks intact, because I think it would make something pretty spectacular. But as it is, I think this is going to be Hasbro's first huge Star Wars failure. Wow. And they have 2 weeks left, and their numbers continue to fall. So I am on the edge of my seat chewing my popcorn, interested to see what's going to happen with this, without a doubt.
You have to give us an update the next episode.
Count on it.
We'll see.
Count
yeah,
on it.
That's
I am
a big fail.
Absolutely captivated.
Interesting.
There you go.
Yeah. So the last bit of news, I think we're going out on a positive note rather than a failure. So I'm glad you stuck that in where you did, Charlie.
Sorry, yeah, I thought it made sense. My old man who's a golfer always says, always end on a good shot.
Yes,
So
exactly. So Kathleen Kennedy just did an interview with Empire. She mentioned how amazing it was for Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen to reunite on the Obi-Wan show, and I can't wait to see that. That's going to be amazing. But the big piece that I want to take away from this is she mentioned the sequel characters. She mentioned that they are not done with those characters. There are discussions right now with. And here's the part that I want to stick on and ask you guys about. She said that the conversations are happening with the creative team to bring back these characters. So what do you guys think that means? You think this is scripting for shows, movies, some kind of continuation? Or do you think she's talking to the creative team about like, hey, how can we get a Rey Skywalker novel? How can we get a Finn and Jaina comic book?
Man.
What do you guys think? Like, is she being purposefully vague in case they can't get the actors? Or do you think we're going to see these characters in other mediums? And maybe like a Clone Wars, we do need a new Star Wars cartoon. Is this the way? Is it going to be following Poe Dameron and the X-Wing squad instead of a movie? Are we going to be getting Rogue Squadron, the Clone Wars style TV show? Like what does this mean to you? And are you excited to see these characters coming back?
I mean, I would say without a doubt that Star Wars in the last certainly 2 years, because there have been no films, and with the exception of Rise of Skywalker, which people have very divisive thoughts about, but The Mandalorian was such a smash hit that people are absolutely crazy about, that it is really righted. I won't say righted the ship, because that would seem to indicate that it was going in the wrong direction, which I don't agree with. Has really changed the course of the wind by which Star Wars is driven. It's more TV focused. People enjoy watching things from their couch, because for a year we couldn't leave our houses, for lack of a better term. So in a lot of ways we acclimated, the culture changed. So people enjoyed seeing things from their big screen TV and being able to have a pause to go have a pee break or whatever it is. And that's okay. So, and right now there are no Star Wars movies on the slate. So I would agree that I would like to see things. I don't want to see things relegated to novels or necessarily cartoons, because I think in a lot of ways it limits the audience. People enjoy live action. They enjoy seeing kind of that punch of it. So I'm of the opinion things that we see are going to be TV driven. That's kind of my vibe. But regardless, if it ends up being film driven, I think that would be amazing too. But I think TV widens the audience and in some ways limits the exposure if things don't work out, because it's easier to pull the plug on a TV show than on a movie that doesn't work. So I don't know, but I'm excited.
True.
Abby, how are you feeling about all of this? What's the potential there for you?
Well, on the topic of like Kathleen, I think she's definitely like vague posting a little bit. They might not have a definitive like this is what we're gonna do, but right. I know that obviously the sequels are beloved by many people, not all, but many, and I think she wants to continue to give the sequel characters something. I would love to see TV shows on it. I would love to see, I know we have Andor and a couple other things, but I would love to see more of it, because, while they're not my favorites, I will consume any and all Star Wars that I am given. I also think comics and novels could be cool, but I definitely agree that like it's become so movie driven because of the pandemic. Like we couldn't go to the movie theater. I just went to the movie theater for the first time like a month ago, maybe, since the pandemic started. And even then I'm just a little bit like, please don't sit near me. So
yeah, that's why I haven't seen Ghostbusters yet. I've been waiting at least giving it a 2 to 3 week buffer. So I saw Shang-Chi, I think 2 weeks after it was released, and Venom 2 like 3 weeks to a month after it was out. And it was just like talking to a friend of mine, he was like, did you see Venom? Yeah. I was like, nah. Did you see Venom? No. Is there like 2 other people in the theater? Like that's actually
just what we saw Friday night or Saturday night. very recently, but we just saw Venom because we're still, you know, we have to be so careful. But yeah, I think it really did kind of change the trajectory for the way that we're like given Star Wars. And I know, you know, we had some movies that like we maybe don't have now, or it's very like it's either up in the air or definitively not going to happen. Not sure, but I would like to see more. I think she's being vague on purpose, though. You know.
Yeah. Always. That is the definition of marketing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I think
garner interest.
Vagary. Yes, exactly.
And we've heard such mixed things from some of the stars of the sequels where, you know, some of them have said like I'll never return. Some of them have said like I'll return for the right project, but it has to be handled like, you know, if we're gonna get a Finn story, you can be damn sure it's gonna happen, right? Just because John Boyega has like clearly said like, here's the only way I would return. Yeah, and, you know, so I think, I think she has to be vague right now until you have actors on board with a solid script and a solid plan. And I just hope they knock some stuff out. But I honestly, for me, I love the TV series route, whether it's live action or like more live action with these characters, the same actors, or even something animated like the Clone Wars. To me, and I know we're going to be talking about Attack of the Clones, but that movie for me is fleshed out so much more with the Clone Wars TV show afterwards. That by the time you get to Revenge of the Sith, if you watch like even some of the Clone Wars, like a couple of, you know, episodes in season 1 or the movie or something, and then the final season leading right into Revenge, like it just adds so much and you feel it so much more. Yeah. So for me, if they can do that with another cartoon for the sequels, like whether it happens in between a couple of the movies or it happens afterwards, like I think there's a whole lot there to jump in on and to dive in on and expand on some of these characters that we felt didn't get enough screen time or we felt didn't get fleshed out enough or whatever. So I'm excited, but let's stop with the news there and jump into Attack of the Clones. So, Abby, you jumped on right away as soon as we were talking about Attack of the Clones. You wanted to be part of this episode. So, I'm going to start with you. Where does this film fit into your Star Wars rankings?
Well, I mean, the prequels and like the Clone Wars show are like my bread and butter. It's what I grew up on. I think when I was originally on my first episode with you guys, I said it was in my top 3. And that could change depending on the mood, you know, like Empire is always up there. The prequels are always up there. Yeah, it's very fluid, but it's definitely in my top 3. And I think it's kind of underappreciated and ragged on a lot for the scripting, which I totally get. George Lucas is a world builder, not a dialogue writer. And I can appreciate I can appreciate the critiques on it because there are some lines that even still, like I watched it today and I just go, oh, that's cheesy. Yeah. But
horrible.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's kind of like great in its badness to me anyways.
So bad it's good.
Exactly. So cheesy, but just so great. So it's definitely in my top 3 for sure. It will always be one of my favorites. Nostalgia, whatever you want to call it, but I do enjoy it a lot.
Excellent. Charlie, where's this one sit for you?
This came out at a weird point in my life because it was 2002. I was a full-fledged adult, but I had actually gone through a divorce, so I was on my own, which was weird. And I remember this was one of those movies that on a Saturday when I had nothing to do, I would just go see it. And I think that happened 4 or 5 times because at the time I was so enamored with the world building that they employed. The Coruscant at nighttime, the rains of Camino, the plains of Geonosis, and all that. It was funny. I was talking about this with my pal John Sear, who I mentioned earlier in the show. That whole last segment of it is just CGI porn. It's just so very early 2000s. It looks like the Matrix. You know, all the blah, 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 going on. but this is one of those that of the time, and again, I was an adult, I was an adult, I was divorced, I had a kid, so there was so much less like, what's the word I'm looking for? There was so much less, goggles of childhood looking at it, that I was looking at it a little bit more critically, and I was like, my God, I love this, and this, but who the hell wrote and directed this? This is the worst scripting I've ever. I mean, even you have fantastic actors: Samuel L. Jackson, Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, who are all Oscar winners or Oscar nominees or contenders, who are chewing their way through George Lucas style dialogue. That you're like, well, he managed to make the original trilogy. Why is this so bad? I don't know that there's really an answer to that. But
That's
again,
fair.
for the time and for the, much like when we were talking about episode 1, when we get to the Duel of the Fates, for example, it's about vignettes of greatness is how I conceptualize this film, because when you put it all together, it's not for me. But when you look at, my favorite scene, which I'll talk about in a minute, or the majesty of Coruscant at night and the traffic and the this and the that. But if you can simply mute, I would almost think that if you could watch this film on mute, there would be more value to it, because you wouldn't have to hear them talking, because it's that horrible to hear. So
to me, it falls apart at the. It's mostly like the romance stuff, like there's still some some dialogue bits that are like whatever, but for me it's the part like Anakin kind of stumbling his way through, like you've grown more beautiful, I mean, for a senator, I mean, like it's like, oh wow, I think I was, so Charlie, you were talking,
come on now,
you were going through divorce. I think I was 17 when this came out, maybe. So 2002.
I was in middle school.
I hope you didn't. Oh my God, children! I hope you didn't try to roll some of those lines out on Loren or any other girlfriend.
What? That's what I was thinking watching this today. I was just like watching. I was like, wow, that like, I am very happy that I didn't. I don't think I tried these lines on anyone, but like, for me to be married now, if that's the inspiration that I was gathering from, like, whew.
I mean, I for sure was dating.
I guess I don't know.
Was dating probably 2 or 3 people at that time, because when you're newly divorced, that's kind of what you do. But I don't know that I pulled any part of Attack of the Clones into my rap, as it were, because that would not have resulted in
I'm sure I dropped a few
the acceptable outcome. Let's just say, let's say it.
Yeah. So let's talk, no matter where this fits in. Oh, so for me, I usually put this one like above, definitely above Phantom Menace. I like you said, Charlie, there are some bits of greatness in this, and we start to see. So like I said, I rewatched this today, and it took me a couple of bits to watch it, because I was watching it in the morning, and then it came home at lunch, and then finished it kind of after work. So I was watching it in bits, but watching it like that, I was able to pick out some of those bits of greatness. In the first 20 minutes of this, they establish so much about what's going on. And I love it for that, because last time we talked about how important the fight was, the Duel of the Fates. We talked about that. And in the first 20 minutes, we see Obi-Wan yeet himself headfirst out of a friggin' window and grab onto that droid. And then
himself. You kids.
5 minutes later, we see Anakin just like decide to moonwalk his way out of the friggin' speeder 6,000 feet up in the air. And Obi-Wan's like, I hate when he does that. And it's like, you just threw yourself out a goddamn window.
Literally. Yeah, right. Obi-Wan, you must remain calm.
Yeah, right.
Kenobi is just like, you know what? No. Swan dive.
He's an absolute Phil Collins. Do as I say, don't do as I do. What was that? Jesus, he knows me. If you enjoyed Genesis, as it were. Yeah, exactly.
But so watching that, like in the elevator, you get for me now, after watching Thor Ragnarok, because we just did a full like MCU rewatch too, but like, these two idiots definitely tried to get help at one point, like, and that establishes it for me of like, this is what Duel of the Fates was about. Like, these two are brothers. They're like egging each other on, and you start to see by the time they hit the bar or the club that they go into chasing this bounty hunter, you start to see that Obi-Wan come in of like, oh no, I gotta calm down. I'm pushing Anakin into being reckless. I have to like calm myself down, center myself. Here's Qui-Gon talking through me of like, calm for a second, sit down. I'm going to go get a drink because I need to calm myself so I'm not pushing you. And Anakin's just like, I'm going to go be reckless. Like, that's the kind of shit that like Duel of the Fates was about. So in the first 20 minutes of this movie, we see exactly what happened and why that fight was important. And I think it's beautiful because of that. Like, you watch the rest of this movie for what you would, but the first 20-25 minutes, like 100% establishes that Obi-Wan was a brother, not a father, and Anakin needed a father.
That's very true. It's kind of one of these, the old adage, and again, Mark, you appreciate this, is the father to a son, though your son is very young, that a boy needs a strong hand. Always. You'll find this true as he gets older, because having 3 sons myself and varying levels of success of kind of how I've raised them. But yeah, you can't, that being your best buddy shit has to wait past 18. You do have there a boy, and again, I don't have a daughter, I have a stepdaughter, but she was grown when I became her stepfather. But a son, and again, I raised my stepson, so I have 4. So really, I do understand the concept. Requires a very steady hand, because the male gene is wily, and you gotta keep a hand on those reins as a parent. Mark, you will see, because your son is 1.5 years. Yeah. Oh boy, you're gonna have to. Woo! Trust me,
it'll get more fun
that
from
shit
here.
Gets off the chain, so you're gonna.
Yeah, he's
you're
already.
Have to keep your hands on it.
I'm watching him push limits all the time. He's climbing things, and he'll look over at me like, "I'm gonna jump off this," and I'm like, "Don't do it," and he's like, "Watch me."
In another 6 months, it'll be, I'm gonna jump off this.
Yeah, that's kind of the eyes that he's giving me now. It's just
fucking
like
count us, especially with us Irish Scots tribe. We got a lot of attitude. So
it's gonna be fun.
Can confirm, as I am also that.
Very, very valid. So yeah, it was. You're right. Anakin needed a strong hand. He didn't get it. Would Qui-Gon have been that? One can only suspect. I think he would have been.
I agree.
So again, as being huge fans of Marvel, as Mark and I are in particular, and enjoying the What If television series, there's a what if for you. What if Qui-Gon would have lived? What if Obi-Wan would have died? What if Obi-Wan would have fallen to Darth Maul? What would that have looked like? I would love to see that story. That would be
seriously
amazing.
Yeah,
because Qui-Gon was very, I think. And I love this description of him, but people kind of describe him as like granola Jedi. He was very like, he was absolutely like it. Like
I like that.
Qui-Gon, modern alternate universe, drives an old Camry and definitely wears Birkenstocks and like listens to his boss, the Jedi, but like
patchouli and listening to Jerry Berry. Yeah, exactly.
Yep, and
Uncle
like
John's band right here in the car.
Yeah. You can see him push back against the council in ways that Obi-Wan doesn't, in ways that may have been productive to Anakin turning out differently if that had happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm down with it. I totally agree.
Yeah. So I love that this movie explores that, and like I said, the first 20 minutes you see everything that you need to see, and we see it keep going through the movie of him pushing back against Obi-Wan and the council, and again, Padme just kind of not helping there at all in various different ways. And then
murder?
Everything with
Very
his mother.
sexy.
Yeah, it's like like it's
she's
there's
like,
a whole lot of stuff going on.
I was talking because when I was watching this again, I'm falling back to my buddy John, talking about, he says, "Oh, Padme should have walked out of that shit immediately, but instead sploosh." It was a huge that was the gift that he shared with me, the big waterfall. I mean, I'm like, oh my God.
Jesus.
That's it. How would you?
If Rob would have walked up to me and been like, yeah, I just lost my mom, but also I murdered a bunch of people, I would have been like, okay, that's where this ends.
Yeah.
Would not have been like, oh,
that's
delicious.
not usually a pickup line that works.
Yeah, you got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
bye.
That's not how normal people propose. That's I'm telling you, my 30th birthday, I proposed and murdered a village. That was how I celebrated things.
Hot.
That's okay. You know what? To teach their own. But
yeah, it worked for me. Favorite scenes. We talked about kind of a little bit about, some of them I think we've already mentioned. But Abby, any favorite scenes in this one stick out?
I do love the yeetening of Obi-Wan out of that. That's great.
I think the Yeetening. The Yeetening is the name of this episode.
Yes, I love it.
Write that shit down now. The Yeetening.
The Yeetening. That's
please in the notes right now.
I do. I love that and the whole chase scene. I don't know why this always makes me laugh, but when Obi-Wan, I believe it's when he's on Kamino, and he has R4 like contact the council, and he says, "Route it care of the old folks home to the Jedi Temple." Always just makes me laugh, because you don't often see like little tidbits that are like must be some kind of inside joke within the Jedi or something. It's always like, but that makes me laugh. And I also love him in the diner with Dex because it's the CGI is so awful. It's so bad. And Dex is terrifying looking because when you compare him to like, and his lips and I know that he's older, but I have to compare it to like the Umbara arc in the Clone Wars. Pong Krell is arguably much more smooth as a character, and then Dex, just his lips are wrinkly and it's like terrifying.
But does he still have that fat mustache? I don't recall.
Oh, I don't. It's just bad.
Gnarly.
But yeah,
that is not Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. There's
no, we don't know. But he also has just like the oddest way of talking. Like he's talking to Obi-Wan as a friend, but he has these like dramatic pauses, which are obviously for the movie. He's like, how big is your
pocket?
And I'm just like, what are you?
There's like little. What are you doing? Not gonna.
I'm like, who talks like that?
Well, that's actually a George Lucas staple, because my favorite line is Harrison Ford being quoted like, "Hey George, you can write this stuff, but you sure can't say it." And then George, as his nonplus, would just be like, exactly. Flat.
Also, in terms of like scenery, like you said, Coruscant at night, like the Lake District on Naboo, the entire Battle of Geonosis. Like, again, I was in middle school when this came out, so I'm just sitting there just like, wow, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. But I find more as I get older, it's the little kind of funny bits like that I gravitate towards.
Right. True.
For me, it's you mentioned a lot of them. I'm gonna give a special shout out to my favorite little dyslexic frog on ketamine, having a lightsaber battle with an octogenarian. Friggin' hell, that is a great scene. I love it.
My wife swears by that up and down. And again,
I
watched the first half of it, and she kind of drifted in. I'm like, "Hey babe, I got to watch the rest of this for the show." And she's like, all right, I'll sit here, whatever.
Fine.
And I'm like, "Well, this is your favorite part, right?" She's like, I guess. But it's as of a whole, I got the feeling she just didn't have the vibe. But I know she loves that part, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a badass scene.
Oh hell yeah.
In its own way, I agree. It's badass, but it's also kind of like, well, like you said, you got a frog fighting an octogenarian, so it's like, where's the punch? Where's the horse walking into a bar? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Where's the rest of the punch?
Well, I mean, the joke writes itself. Like Obi-Wan gets injured, Anakin gives him a hand, and then the frog has to clean it up. Right? It's there's something there. I'll work on it.
I do also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Disgusting. Oh my god.
I do have to, just on the topic of octogenarian Count Dooku, the fact that his little speeder straight up looks like a rascal, like it's like his Scooty Puff 9000.
Yes.
Like I'm just like,
god. Oh my! I never made the connection. Oh
I love that.
If I could interject something that I thought was genuinely badass, as far as my favorite scene was the asteroid scene battle between Slave One and Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter. Without a doubt, I could throw out the rest of it and just enjoy that shit.
Hell yeah!
Seismic
I enjoy the hell out of it.
I was just gonna say that's the seismic charge right there.
There's
the intro that
and which again we got in obviously the Mandalorian in the latter half of season 2 because Slave One has the staying power of the Millennium Falcon, though the Millennium Falcon was simply teased in a minor scene in episode 3 where you saw the Jedi craft landing after the initial scene when Obi-Wan and Anakin were returning to brief the council. What was rumored in the Easter eggs is that you saw the Millennium Falcon kind of fly in beneath and they had a different paint job, and it's like okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But still, Slave One has had this legacy of 30, 40 years of just absolutely kicking ass. And there was no finer example than what you saw in this film because it was in its prime, being flown by Django before headless, before the fatherless clone had to take heed of it. Yeah, I always kind of remembered. I hope this kid was really paying attention of how to fly that ship because after Daddy got the Ichabod crane treatment, hopefully he knew how to fly that shit because otherwise, I think he'd be in bad shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, with me, unqualified, I love that. I've always loved the lightsaber action that you saw in this film. And again, that hangar sequence, not explicitly the Yoda bit, because again, while it's great, it's also kind of silly. But even just seeing the human characters fight, seeing Anakin fight Dooku until the kind of randomly, I'm cutting off your forearm. It's just... Okay, I guess that fits the story, but still, I loved seeing them do what they do. I really did like it.
And I do like that, even though it is kind of random in the fight. I love that because, again, it talks back to an early scene of they're in the speeder and Anakin says something like, I thought I already did kind of rival Yoda as in my lightsaber skills, right? Like you see that cockiness come out, and even when he goes after Dooku, when he gets both lightsabers and he's just spinning and flailing and whatever, and Dooku kind of sizes him up. You see that kind of elderly Obi-Wan kind of style when it reminds me of when he fought Darth Maul in, the final Darth Maul fight. And it's very kind of calculated, and Dooku's just kind of sizing this guy up, and he's like, okay, this kid has skills. Like I see his moves coming from a mile away, and I'm going to cut one of the lightsabers in two. And he does that. And then he's like, I'm going to disarm him. And he does that pretty quickly. And then you see Yoda kind of step in to finish things. And that does two things. One, that shows you that Anakin's cockiness and stuff. And he just took out a village and he did all this stuff when he let the dark side in. But when he's trying to do good, that hubris kind of takes over. So, maybe the anger did kind of help him in his sword fighting or something, but in this scene, he's not letting it in. So it's again, there's all these kind of allusions to what's going to happen later. And I love this movie for that. It's great.
Yeah.
Favorite characters.
Go ahead, please, Abby.
I mean, obviously Obi-Wan and Anakin. I am nothing if not a simp for Ewan McGregor. Would climb that man like a tree. I mean, what?
Spider monkey.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh man, I mean, all of the main characters are great characters, and I love them all. But I love the little bits that you get on Camino of the clones, unhelmeted and unarmored, seeing that and kind of just seeing Obi-Wan going, what the hell is happening here? But my bread and butter is I love all the Clone Wars stuff. So I was very excited when I rewatched this movie first when I was younger, when it had been a while. I was I forgot how much I love this. I love all of their characters, and it makes me a little bit sad that we don't get like more of interaction between them as like individual characters like you would in Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, I mean, I'm not good at making decisions, so genuinely I would probably say that my favorite characters are like Obi-Wan, Anakin, and the clones.
I like Charlie.
It's very I'm not I don't make decisions well.
I mean, the character whose arc I could appreciate the most and stayed the most consistent in this film would be Obi-Wan, because I felt everybody else was inconsequential or kind of all over the place. Anakin was pathetic. Padme was like, "Oh, we can't do this, but I've been dying a little bit since you're coming in to my life, and I truly love you." I said, "Shut the fuck up. Take me back to Obi-Wan. At least this guy has a mission, he has a commitment, and he sticks to his guns." He's the one who is as less wooden as possible, if that can be said for this movie, because everybody is a little bit 2x4. Unfortunately.
Valid.
But yeah, yeah, without a doubt, Obi-Wan is my guy in this film.
I can't disagree with anything you guys said. I do want to throw out a point to Padme here, because when they're all tied to the pillars and the animal bug things are basically set out to kill them on Geonosis, when the Jedi are there, they're trying to figure it out, and she's like undoing her cuffs, climbing the pillar, and Obi-Wan's just kind of like, yeah, I think she's got herself handled, and like she does before the Jedi do. And it's just
nobody needs your bullshit.
Hold
Anakin.
on a second. She's no princess.
Exactly.
She doesn't need any rescuing. She's got this under control, and she's going to survive even if you two schmucks don't. Like, she's a badass. I love this.
Doing better than you. That was
100%.
That was better. I totally agree.
Also have to throw a little shout out to Kit Fisto, just because he's such a goofy little Jedi with that like smile, force push, and like the weird goofiness of just everything that he does in this movie.
Live action Kit Fisto is terrifying to lay your eyes on.
Love it.
I had it seared into my retinas.
Yeah. Somebody threw out there recently the difference between Kit Fisto in Episode 2 and Kit Fisto in Episode 3, and they don't look anything alike.
Nope. What have they done to my boy by the time you hit Revenge of the Sith? It's like, come on.
He's like less like 4 or 5 tentacles, and like, how did that happen? That's not a thing that's super cool to be looking at. So thumbs down.
Yeah, no, I in this movie, just that one force push and the smile that he gives is just so delightful. I could watch that on repeat. I need that GIF to live in my timeline forever.
I will tweet that at you when we're done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's start wrapping up. Overall importance of this film to the story. I think I said my 2 cents on this one with that first 20-minute rant. Abby, what do you feel is the overall importance?
I think it's fairly important for setting up like how Anakin gets to where he is with his kind of like possessiveness over Padme in Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, it brings about the beginning of the Clone Wars, which is also part of the entire downfall, is kind of him having to deal with that and get taken like under the Chancellor's wing and stuff. So I think it's fairly important. Obviously, everything that happens in Revenge of the Sith is the most important bits that you see towards that. But it's up there.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. I think that without a doubt, with minor additions to this film, Episode 1 is kind of unnecessary. I know, and I know I pitched that before, because what happens in Episode 1 that couldn't be transitioned into a line or two of dialogue in this film? They'd simply be, okay, well, our trilogy is now a duology, or perhaps we've somehow turned it into, a second film or a third film that has to do with the Clone Wars, and it's illustrated in that fashion. But yeah, this is obviously very pivotal, but it also serves to eliminate the need for Episode 1 at all, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
What's lacking, to jump ahead, is obviously the script is a train wreck. Without a doubt, it needed a better script. It needed a solid director who could evoke more solid performances, obviously, out of the actors, which did not happen. You had such talent here. Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman, obviously Samuel L. Jackson, and the ghost of Frank Oz. No, basically of Yoda. And so much more could have been done that was just absolutely left on the table because George Lucas was his own self-contained dynasty and nobody could stop him because of what he did. So it's a shame. You know, I think the greatest success of the original trilogy is that you had some additional voices on the directing side. Irving Kershner, who directed The Empire Strikes Back, Richard Marquand, who directed Return of the Jedi. You got something distinct and something that could punctuate George's horrible dialogue and terrible ideas. You had to have a second voice.
Yeah.
Because God knows, I mean, you've heard George's plans for his entire sequel trilogy would have been exploring midichlorians. So tell me if you think you'd want to watch that. I can answer you the question from my perspective immediately that no.
That's valid, some valid points, and kind of answers my final question is what would you change in this one? So Abby, is there anything you'd change about this film? I know it's top 3 for you, so that might be tough.
Literally bouncing off of that, the dialogue and the direction of the actors, like all of the prequels is arguably bad in dialogue, and there are so many instances where people have said, like, you know, Hayden Christensen went so hard with some of his lines and George Lucas had him dial it back, and it gave it a whole different feel. And even if the lines were bad, like maybe just being able to act them in a way that felt more natural. Like you can take crappy dialogue and make it seem a little more natural, you know, with tweaks to the way you're acting it out. So that's what I would change. And I'm fully like on the train of like, it's bad. It's not good. It's a huge nostalgia bomb for me, which is why I love it. But I am fully aware of how not good it is.
Nostalgia bomb.
Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, you're able to look at it as an adult and kind of trying to see, you know, what's you know, where the bear sits, as it were.
Objective and subjective are two different things.
Understandable. Completely agree.
Absolutely. I think that's a great place to wrap it up. So thank you, Abby, for joining us for this one. I'm
thank you for having me back.
Yeah, super happy you could come back.
I think Abby every 5 episodes. What do you think, Mark?
I think that sounds like a plan. Yeah,
like clockwork.
That's great.
Let's make that shit happen. You're a superstar.
Absolutely.
Absolutely love having you on board.
I'm honored. I'm honored to be here, especially on your like 1-year anniversary. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Charlie, it was meant to be.
Yeah, Charlie. Thanks for being here for a year, man. This is exciting. I'm happy to keep on moving with the show. Here's to year 2.
You got it. Oh, absolutely. Cool. Well, good deal. Well, that kind of takes us to the end, Mark, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
This is the part where we talk a little bit about the social media.
Well, I want Abby to go first on that one for sure.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely
all right.
Correct. Please.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok under the name Kidsidious with an underscore at the end. I also make music. Then it's all on all different platforms under a completely different name, which is Moriarti.
Ooh, gotcha. The arch nemesis of Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
Another Star Trek tie-in. Sorry. I know. Everything's about Star Trek for me. Well, you can find me on pretty much on Twitter. I'm at the C3. Spell it out. CEETRTHREE. Blah, blah, blah.
Nailed it.
Find me over on Instagram as well. I do post quite heavily on all socials on the Secret Friends Unite platform. But I also represent the Star Trek fan club I run with my wife, USS Grand Petoskey, active here in Michigan and across all social media platforms.
You can find me pretty much everywhere, Twitter and Instagram, especially at @the_Canardian.
Absolutely, friends. As always, I'm going to thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you, as always, that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
May the force be with you. Rex, play us out. This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.